going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday night. It's another edition of 11 Live. Boy, it is a busy week. And if you're bored this week, I think you're doing something wrong, because for us, it's 4 games in 8 days. It was a Saturday game for the men, a Sunday game for the women, Wednesday game tomorrow night for the women, and then the biggest rivalry in the history of the world is on Saturday as well. And then if you're not tired enough by then, race day Sunday. And I am a native of Michigan, so this is my first time really experiencing everything that happens in the month of May here in Indianapolis with the Indy 500 and all the things happening at IMS. So this is truly an interesting experience to just figure out everything is going on. But again, women play tomorrow night against King's Hammer in the Cincinnati area, 7 p.m. kickoff. We'd love to see some of you there. Thank you for your support this past weekend. We understand it's a Wednesday game, so if you can't travel, no worries there. There will be a stream. We will have boots on the ground as well. But first is 11 Live tonight, and tonight is exciting because this is a little bit different than what we usually do. Before, when we kind of started this, we kind of asked people some rapid fire questions, but this is very trivia based tonight because this coming weekend, you have the opportunity to do some Racing Indy trivia before the game. So go to our website, check out the details on that, and sign up for it. And involved in that is, I know some of you may be Jeopardy fans. I'm a Jeopardy fan. The Jeopardy Masters tournament is happening right now. And it's cool tonight because we have a guest that is essentially the Ken Jennings Indianapolis sports version. And that is Greg Rakestraw, who is known for his wonderful introduction. So I had to try to give you one of those yourself, Greg. Wonderful to have you on here, and glad we get to do this tonight.
Well, I think of my existence as largely trivial. So I think this is the perfect, kind of setup for me.
Perfect. I don't know if we might have as much chemistry as you and Brad do on camera, but we'll try to reach that peak.
Well, the thing is, I'm sure that we will be able to speak in much more multi-syllabic fashion than I do with Brad. It's a series of clicks and grunts when the two of us talk. So I'll see if I can up my game a little bit for you.
Yeah, these are just slightly higher intelligence tonight. Okay. Before we do get into trivia, you're always the person asking the questions. So I want to see if I can just ask you a couple questions that you're usually asking the other people. So the first thing I want to ask you is you can't typically give your opinion on this Indy 11 team as outwardly as maybe Brad can as the color commentator. So I'm just curious, your thoughts on what you've seen in these first 2 months and how this team is really starting to come together.
I hope they're starting to come together. Obviously you've now seen, 2 wins out of the last 3. And what you saw on Saturday night was kind of an adaptation of tactics based on the players that Mark Lowry had available, where from our very unique broadcast position, I would assume we have the lowest broadcast setup in professional soccer. And my background was kind of basketball first, and I was somewhat late to soccer. I'm used to kind of sitting courtside, be able to hear guys kind of, yip at each other and hear coaches. So I love where we set up so close to the action at the mic. But I'm kind of looking straight out and I'm seeing, hey, there's 5 guys at the back. That's typically not how we play. We're changing things up. So, we've got a good group. I thought that Saturday's win was massive. I hope it is the start of things to come. So I think we had all hoped that maybe this group would be a little farther along than they are. But at the same time, there's 24 matches left to go in the season. So, we're in a playoff spot now, and hopefully we can keep it that way. And let's face it, the last 2 years have not been a lot of fun. But the one thing we have done well is play against Louisville. And so, I'm not sure. Maybe we sacrifice that for a better overall standing for the team. I'm not sure. I'm greedy. Let's have both of them. Let's play better, and let's beat Louisville again at home on Saturday night.
That sounds good to me. The man that will try to do that is Mark Lowry. You've had a season and a half now of interacting with him. You get to talk to him more than most. I'm wondering if there's maybe a tidbit or a conversation you've had with him that has really stuck out to you in this last 18 months.
No, honestly, my experience with Mark dates back to 2017. And his Jacksonville team did not make the playoffs. That was the last year of the NASL. And they finished 5th of 8. But they were frankly a superior team to us that year. That was the year after we made the Soccer Bowl final. We were not a great team in 2017. We kind of gotten a year old and injuries kind of crept in on us. Depth was an issue for that team 6 years ago. But Mark coached a team that was owned by the league for half the year. And they were this close to being a playoff team. What I respect about Mark, and I respect this about really any coach, there are always coaches that say, listen, this is the way that I want to play. And clearly Mark's is, we're going to play high press, we're going to play this diamond. But I have the ultimate respect for any coach that says, all right, I don't think I got the personnel to do that. I'm going to scrap this and we're going to go in a different direction. And I don't think Mark has given up his principles just yet, for this team. But I am a fan of, let's not continue to beat our heads against the wall if this is not working. If we need to do something else, let's figure it out, because style is one thing. Winning is the most important thing. Let's make sure we're getting results. And so you saw the team play a little bit differently on Saturday night, and I respect the heck out of that. So, I enjoy my conversations with Mark. He is fiery. He is a competitor, and I like that. I want to see that, from my head coach. I like calling a winning team. So I am a big fan and believer of that. But I have been a big fan of Mark Lowry now, dating back for 6 years.
Yeah, he's never afraid to tell you what's on his mind. That's
no, does not hold back.
This group is comprised with a lot of new players. Obviously, the turnover in the offseason again. Is there someone that has stuck out that you have really enjoyed interacting with, or somebody that maybe has surprised you, exceeding expectations so far?
Well, the person that I come back to is Cam Lindley, and he's the one I've known the longest. And so in the interest of transparency, his high school basketball coach, Pete Smith, is one of my closest friends. Pete does high school basketball games and small college games with me. So I probably spend 40 to 50 nights a year with the guy that coached Cam as a high school athlete. And for people that don't know his story, Cam was a national level soccer player. He never played high school soccer locally. He played academy soccer, but he played high school basketball. And Pete was a guy that knew that there are going to be games that Cam was going to miss because he was playing national level tournaments. And Pete was like, hey, I'll take you for 15 out of 20 games. That's fine. I know you're not, exactly messing around. I know what you're doing. And so, I've known Cam the longest because of that connection. I'm a big fan of all the guys that we have brought in. Yunus Budati, I have been so impressed with him. Big fan of Robbie Dambrotz going back to last year. Big fan of Juan Tejada. So there's a lot of the new guys, and let's face it, even the old guys, so to speak, on the team, hardly anybody's been here for 12 months, because most of the guys that were brought in last year came in, mid to late July or even in August. So I'm a big fan of a lot of this group. And again, I think you'll start to see the results develop, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's speaking of trivia, an interesting tidbit is Diego Sanchez is now the longest tenured player on the roster. So didn't want to test you with that one just yet. But so let's jump into it. Trivia. On brand, we have 11 questions for you to answer.
I like it.
And because my knowledge of the Indy 500 is limited, I did lean heavily on some friends for some of these questions, namely Shelby Gilmour. So shout out Shelby. Thank you for helping. And I hope she gave me the right answers. Otherwise, this might go sideways. So the first one I'll hit you with here is, when was the last year the Indy 500 did not run?
The last year would not have run would have been the last year of World War II, so 1945.
Easy. 1 for 1. Look at this guy. Even dating all the way back. Okay. This one, I'll take a ballpark answer. If you give me the spot on answer, I'll be really, really impressed, but I don't doubt it. How many bricks were laid for the original track at IMS?
It's over 1 million, correct?
Yes.
Is that ballpark enough for you?
Google says 3.2 million.
Okay. So I gave you a correct answer, but maybe I should have rounded up a little bit more.
It is over 1 million. So you got, 2 for 2. We'll sprinkle in some Indy 11 trivia in here as well. This one is recent. Iose, who is now assistant coach, obviously the leading assister in Indy 11 history. Who was the last player who scored on Io's last assist?
Oh, my goodness. I believe he had an assist, if not in his final game in an Indy 11 uniform, then close to it. I'm going to go with Manuel Arteaga.
It was in that Charleston game. It was the 4-1 win.
Okay.
And Manu, I believe, scored that game, but
Okay, so you're telling me it's not Manu.
Yeah.
If I had an option B, I'd go Stefano Pino.
I believe it was AJ Cochran.
Ah.
If you remember that free kick that he curled in and AJ got his head
AJ's
on.
1 goal in 2 years with Indy 11. I should have known that, yes.
Yes, that is the one. Because I remember that post-game interview with him was fun because we kind of knew, hey, maybe that was Io's last assist.
Of course.
Okay. All right. 2 for 3. I believe in the rest, though. The 3 options that drivers have for milk if they are the winner of the Indy 500.
Well, frankly, and so you're talking to someone that has a relationship with the American Dairy Association of Indiana. And the tradition of milk goes back to Louis Meyer, who requested a glass of buttermilk when he won the Indianapolis 500 back in the 1930s. So I would assume the answer would be skim, 2%, or whole. Correct? Those are the 3 options?
Got it.
Okay. So clearly I know more about the 500 than the Indy 11, apparently, because I'm acing the racing questions. Indy 11, not so much so far.
Yeah, this isn't an official question, but do you know the most popular one between drivers this year?
This year, I have no idea. My guess, because they're all little skinny dudes, I'm going to say skim, because they're all like 5'6" and $130.
That would make sense. And I don't know milk very much, but 26 of them actually chose whole.
Good for them. Well, they work out enough. They're going to sweat it out for 3.5 hours. They can have a glass of whole milk. They'll be fine.
And only one of them gets it. So, a lot of those are irrelevant anyway.
And by the way, Ed Carpenter does request buttermilk, by the way, just in case he wins the 500 to honor the tradition of Louis Meyer, just so you know.
That's pretty sweet. That's a history lesson. I'm glad that I'm learning during this too, because again, my 500 knowledge is limited. Okay, another Indy 11 one. This is going to be a tough one because I'll just explain it. So my intern class, when I was an intern in the summer of 21, was unlucky because we went the whole summer without seeing a win until our final game as interns. It was on August 14th in that year. Do you remember the opponent of that one?
Sporting Kansas City 2.
Very close.
Okay. So is it 2 teams, what you're telling me?
No, but like similar name, similar type of area, maybe a little more south.
So did we beat Oklahoma City?
Yeah, it was. It was OKC.
Okay. There you go.
Goal scored by Nicky Law and Manu that day as well, and that was amazing just to see a win at home at the mic. It was good to get that one before I went back up to Michigan that year. Going back to the 500, the first ever winner of the Indy 500
is Ray Haroon.
Any tidbits about him that I can learn?
It was 1911. His winning speed was 74 miles an hour, I believe, and he drove the number 32 Marmon Wasp.
They go a little bit faster now.
Just a tad.
Yeah. Watching qualifying for the first time this past weekend was really cool. The fact that those guys do what they do is just insane.
Well, you saw on Saturday a day that was unlike any other, and frankly, even Sunday too. So because of the near perfect weather conditions and the fact that there was not much temperature difference from 11 a.m. until 5:50, there were 84 qualification attempts that took place between 11 a.m. and 5:50 p.m. And I was on the radio and calling probably about 35 to 40% of them. So I had 3 hours of qualification play-by-play and then 2.5 hours of Indy 11 on Saturday night. I was perhaps a bit tired by the end of the broadcast on Saturday.
That makes sense. How did you sort of get into racing play-by-play, and how do you even do that? What are the key things you need to know?
Well, first of all, if you work in Indianapolis, you have to know the Indianapolis Motor Speedway like the back of your hand. You learn it quickly. I grew up in Southern Indiana, and so like I can give you a chapter and verses like to who won the 500s when I was a kid. Like it was a big deal. In 85, I would have been just finishing up being in the 3rd grade, and Danny Sullivan won the race, which was a big deal because Danny Sullivan was from Louisville. Even though I'm from Indiana, I grew up closer to Louisville than I did Indianapolis. Now, that has no bearing as to how I feel about LIPAFC. Just so you know, I've now lived here for 29 years, and there is kind of a bit of a paycheck that is involved there as well. So I'm just a little bit partial. I usually like purple. That's the color of my high school. I don't like purple on Saturday. Okay, so moving on. When you come to Indianapolis, you learn about the Speedway quickly. And so it's like the one bit of advice that I give anybody that is just coming to town to work in Indianapolis. If you're working for like one of the news stations, a general sports job, you with the Indy 11, you can kind of be a novice at it, and it's okay. But if you're going to work for, say, our partners at Wish TV or My Indy TV, you had better learn IMS fast, because if you say something that kind of reveals you don't know what you're talking about, the listeners will grill you alive. And Ian, as you well know, because for those that don't know, I had Ian do basketball play-by-play during the offseason. Heck, I had Ian doing youth football play-by-play at Graham Park, so he felt at home. And as you well know, if you can speak the lexicon, if you can speak the language of the sport, play-by-play skills translate. So again, I've now been around the track. I've been covering events at the Motor Speedway now for the last 28 years, not every year, but close to it. So I've forgotten just a few things at this point. So I can fake it. I can make it work.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know what you mean about if you're at one of the sports stations, you got to know it. Not only, like you said, the viewers will grill you, but I followed a couple of them that have come out to our practices, and they've been there the entire month of May.
Oh, yeah.
So even if they didn't know, they're learning quickly.
Right, correct.
Want to throw in one here that came from Mr. Brad Hodder.
Oh, God.
How many players have played for both Indy 11 and Louisville City?
How many is he asking, or specific players?
He just said how many players.
Let's see if we can name them. Currently, Dylan Maris and Tyler Gibson, former Indy 11 men that they're playing for Lou City. Kenny Walker played for both. He very briefly played for Lou City after playing for us with the Indy 11 for a year and a half. Ilya Illich played for both. So off the top of my head, I'm going to say 4. Am I missing anybody?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
And that list is correctly short, because that can really be a list that is too long.
But the thing is I tell this for guys that play for other teams, and you've heard me say it on the radio show. Hey, I'm rooting for you 33 nights out of the year. I truly, and Dylan was one of our OGs, one of our originals, back in 2014, and was with us the first 3 years, and then came back for a cup of coffee in 2018. I had hoped that maybe because he played for Mark in El Paso, might be coming back our way in the off season. That kid has meant so much to the Indy 11 that again, I'm not rooting for him on Saturday, but I'm rooting for him 32 times a year. And the year that Tyler Gibson had for us in 2019 was just so jaw-droppingly amazing. So, Ian, we played 35 matches, I believe. Maybe we played 37. I think we played 37 that year. That's right. We played 37. He missed 6 minutes the entire year. We played a 5 o'clock match in Hartford on a Saturday. We were the opening match for Dillon Stadium, their first year. And for some reason, somebody thought, you know what we should do? We should play a match on artificial turf at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in July. Not exactly a great idea. Poor Tyler was like cramping up. It's the only match he subbed out the entire year. He plays a holding midfielder role. He is covering miles every time he's playing. And he plays 36 full matches and another 83 minutes of a 37. So I will always have a fondness for those two dudes, except for about 2 hours on Saturday night.
Yeah, just a little less buddy-buddy for those 90 minutes,
Yeah.
which is fair. Which NASCAR driver has 4 wins at IMS?
Well, that would be AJ Foyt, that was a 4-time winner at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But he also, like he and Mario Andretti, both spent time at in Daytona. Now, are you talking about who has won like 4 times in NASCAR at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, like in the Brickyard, or like a 4-time 500 winner that also drove a NASCAR event?
No, this is I think NASCAR events at IMS.
Well, like Jeff Gordon was a 4-time winner. Jimmy Johnson may have won more than that. So
those are the ones we were going for. Is Jeff Gordon? Yep.
But as a foreigner from Michigan, don't ask NASCAR questions during the month of May.
Understood.
Exactly. Yeah. Edit when this airs in post. Edit that part out.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll understand if I get a few messages in the DMs tonight asking what the heck are you doing, Ian? This one is one that I couldn't track down all the answers, but I have a feeling you'll get them. Can you name all the drivers that are from the same country this year as our coaches? So England, Brazil, Spain.
So the English drivers, all right, from the back of the field, Jack Harvey, Catherine Legg. Again, Stephen Wilson obviously now will no longer run in the race, but qualified for the 500. How many others would there be as I go up and down the field? We have so many European drivers. I think that might be all of the English drivers. So is it 3? Is that correct?
I'm going to go with you for that one. I think you're right.
Okay. I mean, there have been so many over the years. You see me like staring off in the distance. This is how my mental Rolodex works.
Yeah.
Like somehow I'm thinking if I keep staring at this spot off camera long enough, I can like literally picture the starting grid. And I'm also trying to think of the full-time English drivers in the series. And I think the only one right now is Jack Harvey. And so then you've got Catherine Legg and Steph Wilson that run the race on an annual basis, or try to, but aren't full-time drivers. So I'm going to go with 3.
Is there any from Brazil and Spain?
So Spain is Alex Palou, the pole sitter, first Spaniard to be on the pole at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then Brazilians, the legends, Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, although both those guys have now spent as much time in the States because they're in their late 40s. So we joke that Tony Kanaan is from Brazil, Indiana. And Ian, in case you don't know this, there is a town, Brazil, Indiana, about 50 miles. I'm like pointing in the westerly direction as we speak. 50 miles west of Indianapolis. And I think for the Brazilians, there's been so many of them that have run over the years. I think they're the only 2 in the race this year. We have a heavy influx of Europeans seemingly this year in the race.
So you got Mark Lowry, Gabe Zapponi, and Io covered. Perfect.
Yep.
So Adam Driver today announced as
Yep.
a temporary starter. Can you tell me his primary connection to Indianapolis?
He attended the same university that I happen to have a degree from, that being the University of Indianapolis. So now Adam was only there for a year before so he was military, University of Indianapolis, and then Juilliard School of Music, Arts, etc. But for 1 year, Adam Driver of Mishawaka, Indiana, was a University of Indianapolis Greyhound, such as myself and Mrs. Rakestraw. Between the 2 of us, we have 3 degrees, and I account for 1 of those. Thank you very much.
There you go. That's also a fantastic name for someone to get the Indy 500 started.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. I didn't even thought about that till you brought that up, but you're spot on. Absolutely right.
Perfect name. So this is one that Shelby was very proud of. So I hope you can get this one. There's a car item that debuted in the Indy 500 cars and then was put in everyday cars. What is it?
Wow. I'd love to say push to pass, but that's a gas pedal.
Yeah, it's not like necessarily like a mechanical thing.
Right. Could have been rear view mirrors.
It was, yes. He got it.
Good job, Shelby. That's really good. That's well played.
Yeah, she was very proud of that one. She almost stumped you. It came very close.
Kids, use your rear view mirrors, by the way.
Yeah, those are important. Okay, last one. So you're 10 for 11 or 9 for 10, and this is the 11th one here.
Yep.
Indy won away at Louisville on race weekend in 2021.
Yes.
When was the last time we won a home game? And this might give you a little bit of a hint during race weekend / race week.
Last time we won a home game or specifically against Louisville?
Just home game.
Home game on race weekend.
/ race week. Wink, wink.
I would assume that you're referencing us beating Louisville in the Open Cup in 2016. That was on race week on the Wednesday before the race. Is that it?
That is the one.
Okay. We need to double check. I want to say that in the pandemic year, when the race was in August, we beat Pittsburgh either at home on quals weekend or race weekend. That's a little bit off.
See,
and
I totally thought that they still run it in May, so I didn't check the August date for that.
Right, but I think it was quals weekend, but not race weekend. But I also know this, that before we beat Louisville at home in September of 21, the last time we beat Louisville at home, it wasn't Indy 500 race day, but it was Kentucky Derby race day. So that was the first Saturday in May of 2018 on an IOZE penalty. How about that?
That's a good feeling to get Louisville on their day of days.
Any day that ends in Y to beat Louisville is a great day. Let's not lie about this.
This is true as well. It was the memories of the post game last year and were top. So I definitely hope we can recreate that this weekend. That's
kind of the idea.
Yeah. Well, Rake, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I think you definitely proved your prowess at trivia, and so hopefully people might join you this weekend for pregame trivia.
And I can tell you this, I will now never forget that Io's last assist was to AJ. He's probably watching this and texting me as we speak. How could I have forgotten? That's who delivered his last assist.
Yeah, probably. It would make sense. Well, Ray, thank you so much. Always great to talk with you, and we'll see you this weekend.
You got it, buddy. Take care.
Appreciate you. Oh, man. Wow. What a 11 Live. It's going to be hard to top this, so I'm sorry to whoever comes on the program next week. A little bit longer one tonight. We'll get back to the normal programming next week. Memorial Day Monday, race day Sunday, game day Saturday. Again, the women play tomorrow night, so make sure you tune in on 11 Sports to that broadcast. Until then, we'll see you next Tuesday for 11 Live.